All right, we are live. Welcome to Geeks Worldwide presents Press Any Key. I am, of course, your host, Michael Schluger, and this is episode 297. We have a fantastic show for you today, but as usual, let me introduce the crew before we go on. We have Josh Irwin with us.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going, man?
Good, good.
Excellent, excellent. And Connor Howard.
Hey, how we doing out there?
Pretty good, pretty good. I know I'm rocking my new shirt, right? Video games don't make us violent. Lag does.
It's very true. It's very true.
Very true.
Very true. That's what makes it funny. So, as usual, we have a couple of PSAs for you. So let's go through them super quickly. The first has to do with something we mentioned last week. Ubisoft is giving away free copies of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, right? So it is free right now. I believe it's already started, and it is free till the 18th. Okay, so if you have a PC, make a Uplay account or log into your Uplay account, and off you go. You got it. This game.
It's great news. It's great news because it's arguably one of the best Assassin's Creed games that have ever come out. I've heard Origins is good.
Origins is
planning to play Origins soon. Find out for myself, but Black Flag is a classic.
It's got the most personality of any Assassin's Creed game, bar none.
Oh yeah,
it's a really nice little Christmas gift from Ubisoft to all gamers. It still looks gorgeous. It's really not like an old game. It came out when, like 3 years ago.
Yeah, like 2013, I think.
Or 14.
I think 13 actually.
So it's not that old. It looks fantastic. Especially, and it works on even like a medium range machine. It's still going to look fantastic, and you get to be a pirate. So I mean, like, it's a win-win-win situation.
Can't go wrong.
Yeah. The other PSA we have for you has to do with PlayStation. PlayStation is discounting their VR headset again for the holiday season. So it is $200, which is a really good price, actually. That will net you the PlayStation VR, the camera, which you need for the VR, and Gran Turismo Sports for $200. It's normally $300 for the bundle. That's a good deal. There's a couple of other ones which are priced a little higher if you want Doom in there or if you want Skyrim. But this is a really nice deal. It is through, I think, the 24th. Yes, through the 24th. You still need, obviously, the wand controllers. If you don't have those, it's going to be a little bit extra. But on the whole, saving $100 is nice. And you can use that money to buy the wands if you don't have them. So
true.
So, yeah. And I think this is sort of like the most consumer-friendly, easiest VR sort of to get your feet wet. All the other ones, like the HTC Vive, and the Oculus, require you to have cameras all around you. This one just has one in front, and that's it. So it keeps things simple. So if you're curious about VR and you got a little extra money the holiday season, this is not a bad way to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can find those prices online right now. It's not like a special code or anything like that. Just go and look.
Buy now.
That's right. So having said that, we got a follow-up. That's right. So obviously we talked quite extensively about Star Wars Battlefront 2 weeks ago. A little bit of extra news came out recently. One of the executives at EA has basically hinted essentially that, or it floated the idea that microtransactions will be gone from the game, period. Now, my question is, A, do you believe him? And B, do you think that will be enough to change things around for the game? Do you think somehow, like, people will be like, oh, now I'm going to buy the game, and we're going to see the sales skyrocket?
I am very skeptical just because this is EA we're talking about, but
yes.
I would say that it's a very plausible, it's very plausible that they would make this admission. They would, take this into consideration as part of their business model, because I think they've seen the damage that can be done when you piss off the fan base enough. I think, we actually saw some numbers come out. I don't know how accurate they were, but there were, rumors of stock prices being hurt.
They definitely saw a drop.
Stock value dipping. Yeah. So that's hitting them in their wallet, and that's where it really hurts. And I think that could be the wake-up call they needed to kind of change course on this. But I'm never putting the possibility off the table that they'll come back to it some other way. They'll reintegrate them some other way. So skeptical, but plausible.
A lot of people on the internet were saying that they were going to restore microtransactions on or right before Christmas. The idea being that like a lot of unknowing parents or grandparents or relatives, what have you, will have bought this for their kids for Christmas, and then EA was going to capitalize on all the expected new players, basically, to make some extra money.
It's what you would expect them to do.
Yes, it's what you would expect them to do. What do you think, Josh? Do you think they're going to do the right thing here?
No, I think what they're going to do is they're going to completely revamp all of their currency systems, and then once they have that re-engineered, then they will release microtransactions that are not quite as offensive. I don't think it's going to happen by Christmas. I think we're talking like March, April. But honestly, I think that's what's going to happen, because you look at their currency system now and nobody understands it. It doesn't make any sense.
It's a clusterfuck for sure.
So I think they'll re-engineer all of that. They'll release a major patch. It'll be promoted everywhere, and then they will figure out a way to integrate microtransactions that isn't quite so offensive.
That sounds plausible as well.
That's also very possible. Yeah, it's like they might make it look like they're doing something to appease the player base, where it's like, hey, no, we're fixing the system. It'll be easier to unlock what you want, and then they sort of sneak it back in, like, oh, by the way, here's stuff you can spend money on again. It's like,
yeah, you're gonna get some free heroes or something probably out of it, and everybody will sing Kumbaya. It'll be okay.
That would make sense.
I mean, I know a lot of people were very excited because there's obviously a tie-in with the new Star Wars movie that just released, and a lot of the newer Star Wars characters like Rey and I apologize, I haven't seen the movie, so like the names aren't Vin and whatever are in the game now. But I'm curious to see how the numbers are gonna come out. We'll keep an eye on the next 2 weeks to see if concurrent players have gone up or if sales have gone up. We're very curious on this one.
It's still going to sell just fine. It's a Star Wars property, and most people don't care or know what's going on with it. So
it's fair. That's fair. So we don't have a lot of what the fuck story is this week. So we are going to keep the juicy what the fuck story is for the end. I apologize, but I promise you they're worth it. Instead, let us talk about another company that is having a really, really phenomenal year and is forcing me to eat a little bit of crow. I'm not going to lie. That is, of course, Nintendo. The Nintendo Switch has now sold 10 million copies, 10 million units of the console have sold. And that is insane when you think about it, because the entire lifetime of the Wii U, which was how many years? 4 or 5 years? 5, I want to say.
It's 2012, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, 5 years. All the Wii U's together sold, I will tell you right now,
13.76, wasn't it?
13.56.
56.
13.56. So they are almost up to the lifetime sales of the Wii U in less than a year, which is fucking insane.
That's pretty goddamn impressive.
It is. I remember when they announced that their goal was to sell 2 million in like 1 month, and we were laughing at this number and saying like never gonna happen and whatnot.
And then I bought one.
Right. And so sort of to give us some perspective, the Wii sold a little bit more just at the same time frame. The Wii sold 13.17 million in 10.5 months. So very close, not quite well, but very close. My question to you guys is, where do you see the Switch going from here? Do you guys see? Do you think this is like we haven't peaked yet? You think there's still a lot of sales left, or do you kind of see a Wii situation where obviously the Wii sold like bananas for what was it, the first 2-3 years because it just kept flying off the shelves and then flatlined almost because there's no interesting software coming out for the system.
There's no way that they can recreate the mania of the Wii. I mean, if you think about it, first, the Wii had way broader appeal. And second of all, like, it took 2 years to be able to see them on store shelves. At least right now you can see Switches on store shelves, but they have a lot of momentum, and I think they're going to carry that momentum forward. I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. I get asked probably once a week from people at work what the Switch is like and if I would recommend it and all that other stuff. And I sing its praises. I really do like my Switch. So I don't know. I think it's a new way to play, and I think a lot of people are really digging it.
It's so interesting to me because obviously the Nintendo Switch is essentially a shield. An NVIDIA Shield that got like a nice paint job done essentially to it. And the NVIDIA Shield never had these numbers, but obviously also didn't have Nintendo's titles behind it. So it's very, very interesting. Connor, what's your take on the Switch?
I was thinking at first that I wouldn't be surprised if the Switch, like kind of replicated the success of the Wii, but thinking about it more, I think Josh is right that you can't really, I don't know if they'll ever really retread that same ground, because I think you were right, Josh, that the original Wii just had such general appeal to like literally anybody. It was like the new, I don't know, back when the television was new, every family wanted one in the living room. I think the Wii was kind of the new thing that everyone wanted in their living room, no matter if they played video games generally or not. And the Switch is a little bit more of a specialist sort of thing where you kind of need to be more of a hobbyist to appreciate it as much. But that being said, I think just the fact that stores can't seem to keep their Switches in stock speaks to how much momentum they have. I think we'll have to wait until the final numbers come back from this current holiday season. And you also need to factor in like early January when people are spending gift cards and stuff. It's just gonna keep chugging along at a pretty good healthy sales rate. So I'm expecting these numbers to climb a lot. I don't think it'll be quite Wii successful, but you can tell Nintendo learned a lot of the lessons they needed to learn from the Wii U, and I think they've delivered what people wanted, and that's showing in the numbers.
Well, I mean, look at the 3DS. How many units did the 3DS sell? It was like 60 million.
Something unbelievable, yeah.
Unbelievable. And the Switch has the potential to get that high. I mean, it really does.
I agree.
I have to agree with you guys as well. As much as it, makes me want to.
I know it kills you inside, Mike.
Yeah, it does. But no, I'm happy to see Nintendo doing well. I will say this. I think a lot of people were very, very skeptical coming into the launch of the Switch, and I don't mean just like consumers. I mean a lot of developers were very skeptical going into it, and so now that the system is doing so well, we're starting to see more and more developers say, "Oh shit, I need to get my game out onto the Switch." But what that means for us is that they're starting development now, or they've started development in the last 2, 3, 4 months, and we won't have an actual game to play for another year minimum, potentially more for AAA titles. And so my concern is that there's going to be some sort of drought. But even if there is, like, let's say a half-year drought of AAA titles, I think it won't matter. There's so much momentum behind it now that the hype train is just going to keep rolling on. And I think Nintendo probably is going to have a couple of more things. They were very, very smart. And I commend them for releasing Zelda and then waiting a while to do Mario. That 1-2 punch is just phenomenal, and I think it's driving very strong sales.
It's this weird thing. It's this brilliance that So when the PS4 and the Xbox One came out, the discussion was who had higher frame rates, who had a higher resolution. And it was like, oh, I'm going to buy that console, or I'm going to buy that version of that game because it looks better, or it runs another frame or two faster. But people who already own PS4s and Xbox Ones, when a new game comes out, they're like, man, I really wish I could get this for my Switch. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? It's a really strange thing. Like, for instance, like the new South Park. I would have bought South Park if it was out on my Switch. I did not buy the new Wolfenstein because I knew it was coming to Switch. And it was
really?
Like, I was like,
even though you know objectively it's going to look better on your PC or PlayStation or whatever, you're going to save it for the Switch.
Yep, and I'm not the only one either. The guys on the Giant Bombcast, also the people on Rooster Teeth. Like every time I listen to one of their podcasts or watch one of their shows, they say similar stuff. They're like, man, I just wish this was on the Switch so I could take it with me.
That's interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of that. I think that plays into what I was thinking of, is just that I'm not too worried about a drought on the Switch when it comes to the game library, Mike. It's a valid concern for sure, but I just feel like people who follow Nintendo fans and owners of Nintendo consoles, they tend to tolerate software drought a little bit better than like a Sony or Microsoft purist or a PC gamer would, because I think Nintendo fans tend to be a little more patient because they just expect the best games to be first-party titles that come out less often. So I think they're better at waiting, and it's also less of a problem for the Switch because, like Josh pointed out, you've got all this crossover stuff coming from, Skyrim, you've got Wolfenstein, you've got, all kinds of. I'm seeing actually a pretty good amount of third-party titles for the Switch as well. Like, I think it was like Has Been Heroes is a really popular little RPG that I know some people are playing. Stuff like that, where it's like, I'm actually surprised that it's a fairly strong library.
I am
better than I'd expected on a Nintendo console.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo did a really good job of getting a bunch of third-party independent developers onto the console and getting them the support that they need to port things over. And obviously, because it's based on, again, the Shield and Android, I think Undercurrent, it's not super hard to get things working on that structure. I'm also thinking that potentially it's possible for a quick upgrade in the life cycle, in that we might see like a Switch 1.5 or something like that.
I think we will
come out within like a year or two, especially because NVIDIA has stronger, more powerful not cards, but chipsets coming out, or we're in the process of coming out for the Shield when they sort of discontinued that to partner with Nintendo. So,
and they can fix some of their design flaws, like where the charging port is if you want to put the kickstand up, or supporting Bluetooth headsets, or there are so many little things that they can improve that would really make it a much better experience. And if they did those things, I would trade this one in and get another one.
Bold words.
I will.
So yeah, I mean, listen, Nintendo, like, job well done. Credit where credit is due. Keep up the good work. Our next topic has to do with crossplay. This was rather interesting to me. This happened during the VGAs, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But I wanted to talk about this thing specifically. Basically, you had a developer that was in an unscripted moment, just kind of decided to go for it. During the Video Game Awards, he basically said that gamers want crossplay, and we are committed to doing whatever it takes to make that happen. Players deserve it. And so obviously this was the developer of Fortnite. Fortnite already proved, accidentally, so to speak, that crossplay is possible between Xbox and PS4. We know that it's only Sony who's basically acting as a bottleneck. Do you guys think that now there's enough pressure on Sony to cave in and allow for the crossplay, or you still think, Sony's just going to be like, whatever, fuck you all, we're not going to do crossplay?
They lead by too much of a significant margin to even give a shit.
Yeah, it's like 3-1, right?
3-1. Yep.
Yeah, they're definitely wondering what's in it for us. Like, why would they make that a leap? It's kind of like putting their neck out on the line for a very dubious benefit. And I'm curious what this guy, where he's getting the demand from. Like, I'm not too sure I know a lot of people who really want console crossplay all that badly. I know it's not something I've really thought about, like, hey, that's something I want. It doesn't really occur to me. Now, in theory, just on paper, it sounds like that'd be cool because, you know, it's more people to play with, a better player base. Like, you'll have maybe fewer dead games where like the servers are empty.
I would say, how often are you playing massively multiplayer games? Games like Fortnite, PUBG. Like Fortnite just recently introduced the 50 on 50 map, which I know upset Josh because they were blatantly stealing from PUBG. But
blatant ripoff,
yeah. So I mean, like Battlefield, for example, on the PC side has these massive. How big are their maps? Like 50 by 50, 60 by
64 players.
64, that's right. 64 by 64. So imagine how much easier that would be to do on the console side if you were doing cross-play between two consoles instead of just one.
Right, that's what I'm thinking is like that would be cool just to expand the player base. But again, it's like not something it's not a priority for me. So, and I'm wondering how many other people it is a priority for.
The other thing is, like, I know people who got into gaming with the Xbox 360 generation. So when the Xbox One came out, they were like, "Oh no, I'm an Xbox guy," and they went out and bought Xboxes without really thinking about it. And then so they're stuck over at Xbox land, can't really afford to get a PS4, and so they've got a smaller number of people to play with. And it frustrates friends, that they can't play with them because they don't have the same console. So it would come in handy whenever you've got that stubborn friend who swears by Microsoft or just,
The other thing I would say is that the few times that I've seen a cross-play experimentation between Xbox and PC players, it doesn't tend to end well or be very successful because of obviously the massive difference usually in the control scheme, mouse, keyboards versus controllers. And I imagine that many PC players are hardline and most console players are not hardline at all, and they're Wi-Fi. So you have very, very big latency differences when it comes to online games. That's so important.
Right. Console PC crossplay, I feel like could never work, or at least it would not work on the current technology. Like there would have to be a much finer line between the capabilities of a modern console and a modern PC. But I feel like PS4 and Xbox One, I think, are comparable enough to support it. It
very much so.
It really is a question of like, why would the developers, like, why would the hosts, in this case Sony and Microsoft, why would they go out on that limb? It's an incentive problem.
I will tell you what I think is going to happen. I think that Sony is going to hold off until they are close to releasing the PlayStation 5. Whenever that is. And about 2 years before they release the PlayStation 5, they're going to cave and they'll be like, okay, fine, here you go, just to get that sort of goodwill going and then come out with the PlayStation 5, but not do crossplay on it. And they'll be like, oh, look, the crossplay didn't do so well because obviously demand for it is now. People are going to move on and about this kind of stuff, and then once they finally allow crossplay, they'll be like, see, we did it, but no one really cared, no one really did, no one played, it's not important to our consumers, and we're not going to do it with PS5.
Okay, maybe, yeah,
that's what I see happen. I don't know, I know I'm putting on my tin, but that's
I could see it.
I see you, Sonny. I see you. So since we're talking about the VGAs, let us talk about the VGAs. I don't think anyone here actually saw them, right? No one watched them.
A little bit of it, yeah.
Really?
A little bit. What was your takeaway, Josh?
That they're kind of useless.
Why are they useless?
Well, because you've got this award show that, like, they take some of the awards and in the quote unquote breaks, they announce the award and then they go back to the show to do an advertisement or promote something that is not an award that is ostensibly what the show is about.
What were they promoting again? Because I have not watched it. What were they promoting out of curiosity? Like,
well, I mean,
cars or like what were they?
No, like you've got all the Death Stranding stuff. You've got
Oh, like, so they were acting as a hype machine? You mean for
they were acting as a hype? Yeah, they were acting as a hype machine as opposed to making the awards the front and center thing. So okay. I don't know. I just didn't care for that myself. I think it's kind of dumb. I think it's kind of useless. Plus, as a gamer, like I have the outlets that I like to listen to. So like every year I listen to Giant Bomb's debates on their game categories, and like that's the thing I like at Game of the Year, is to hear them argue and present their arguments and do their bargaining. And like, I like that side of it. I don't necessarily care about reading the lists of what the Game of the Year is.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because obviously video games are a visual medium, no brainer. So you would think that if you had a video game awards show, it would be like, you know, it makes sense. Everyone would tune in. But I think as gamers, especially, I don't know, maybe the younger generation is different, but as older gamers, I'm used to reading, right? I'm used to reading about video games. And so while for me, it's not Giant Bomb specifically, I'm more likely to read a best of list by PC Gamer and Destructoid and Ars Technica and take away from that, you know, what I want to play or what I want to pick up that I haven't picked up yet, as opposed to tuning in and watching this, which is on like Spike TV. Like, who the fuck watches Spike TV? I haven't watched Spike TV in years and years.
I don't think it's on Spike anymore.
Oh, it's not on Spike?
No, the last 2 years it's internet only.
Oh, that's even, yeah, okay.
Because Jeff Keighley took over as, like, they kicked it off of Spike, and then Jeff Keighley was like, I'm going to do it anyway, put it online. So that's how it is now.
Gotcha.
All right, make my own video game awards show with Mountain Dew and Doritos and hookers and blackjack. And you know what? Forget the awards show.
At least they didn't have Joel McHale on again, because
that's true.
God, he was awful.
So
what an asshole.
So let me ask you guys this then. Coming off all the announcements, was there anything that caught your eye or anything that interested you of what was announced, or did you feel that any of the actual awards were well earned?
I mean, obviously Breath of the Wild has. I mean, that I've been trying to play Skyrim again lately.
Why?
And it's so hard because Breath of the Wild did it so right. Do you know what I mean? Like, it immediately makes Skyrim feel
dated,
outdated.
I wonder why a game that's almost a decade old would feel dated.
Even
figure it out.
Even up until a year ago with Fallout 4, the mechanics of Skyrim worked, right? Like, it was the accepted way that an open world RPG was. But I don't know, Zelda just, like, you get it, like, you play another game and you want to be able to climb up everything and explore things and, like, see things that make you curious. And, like, you don't get that feeling or that sense of wonder from any of the other games. So I feel like Breath of the Wild, you have to give a shout out to Breath of the Wild. So it deserves Game of the Year. I really believe that. And I think Mario Odyssey is a close second because it does a lot of the same things.
Right. What about you, Connor? Anything kind of stand out to you?
I really can't say I'm surprised at Game of the Year. I mean, Breath of the Wild is, it's an achievement. Obviously, I haven't played it, so I can't speak subjectively. But it's like, personally, just me, I think Horizon Zero Dawn deserved Game of the Year. Personally, that's just because I've played it and I loved the hell out of it. But I really can't compare the two fairly. That's just me. That's just my first thought. But I mean, no, I'm happy for the Zelda team because Breath of the Wild is an amazing looking game. I'll say that I'm really happy that Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was recognized for something, because that's also a really impressive game just in terms of, sort of the motive behind it and the way it presented its story.
That one to me was sort of like very surprising to even see it, because while I certainly heard good things when that game first came out, I haven't really heard too much continual buzz about it.
Yeah, it was a little under the radar, which is why I'm really happy it was recognized.
Like, I even forgot that it was a thing, And
yeah,
it's down to, like, this game came out this year. It's already down to $30 on Steam. So
I think it launched at like 40 though. I don't think it was a full price game when it came out. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a $40 game when it came out.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But seeing that is nice because I feel like in general, shows like this, events like this, are just kind of like they're popularity contests. If we're gonna be perfectly frank about it, like it's all popularity. So like, Cuphead is, it's cool, but like, did it really need like all those awards about like best indie debut and stuff like that? There have been so many great indie games this year that like it's just like it's popularity. It's not based on quality. And so if you really, I mean, I'm not saying that Cuphead's a bad game and didn't deserve awards, but I'm just saying it like it overshadowed so many also deserving indie games, I feel like, just because it was sort of that game that everyone knew about for a few months. It's just sort of the it thing. It's like there's like an it factor that decides these things to me more so than actual merit. Not to say that they don't have merit. It's just like that's not what drives the decisions. Is like that. That's what I have a problem with. Like merit isn't the sole factor. It's also popularity, how many people are talking about it, how much buzz a game has. That seems to be the deciding factor behind a lot of these awards. I mean, I'm not going to say Cuphead doesn't deserve best independent game. It's just like it sticks at me because I'm like, there have been so many great independent games this year that I mean, I don't have a problem with most of these. It's like best action game, Wolfenstein 2 was awesome. I actually just got done playing it. Awesome, action game. So yeah, it's just like it's fine. I get it. I get most of these. It's just like I will say one thing though: best multiplayer. PUBG got best multiplayer. I'm still like trying to understand how that works because it's like, dude, that's an unoptimized bullshit mess that's not even released yet.
It's awesome.
How is it?
It's so good.
How is it best multiplayer? It's not even released yet. It's buggy. So good. It's this buggy, like full of glitches and crap. It's like I don't. That's what I mean though. That's what I mean though. Quality doesn't matter. It's all popularity.
So
but
it's
you haven't answered the question. Good. Have you played it?
No.
Okay. Well,
no. So
that's
again,
all we need to know then.
I will temper my criticisms accordingly. I haven't played it, but I've seen it. I'm just sick of hearing about it. It's like I'm seeing it everywhere. Everyone's playing it.
Well, and there might be a reason for that.
No, that's what I mean though. That's what I mean though. Everyone's playing it, and that seems to be the deciding factor in these awards. That's my point.
But there's a reason why everyone's playing it. You should definitely check that out. But
coming back to my point, it's not about quality. It's about popularity.
I don't know. If you
fighting words.
If you listen to like Cuphead, for instance, I'm not saying it's game of the year, but if you listen to how those people made that game, they made something that nobody has ever made before. They literally hand drew cells,
which is awesome. Yeah,
and program like in a specific art style. Everything is hand drawn. Like the way that they did that game has never been done before. They've created like almost a new genre. They didn't like cheap out with it by cell shading some basic pixel art. They really went for it. And what they came up with, when you look at it and watch it in action, it's just like, wow, I can really see where the quality went into this thing. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I get that. I get the recognition. It's worthy recognition, especially for art direction. To win best art direction, Cuphead makes perfect sense to me. But like when you just take it at the value of gameplay, where it's like, yeah, it's a side-scrolling 2D shoot 'em up. I mean, it's a well executed one, but it's not like that's super original as far as mechanics go. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just sour on it because like all I hear is just it's the Dark Souls of shoot 'em ups. Like I'm like so sick of hearing everyone compare any hard game. Like any game that's moderately difficult now is the Dark Souls of whatever genre it is. I'm fucking sick of it. It's like Dark Souls. No, it's a game that challenges you. Like stop. I don't know. That's annoying to me. That might have soured me on it. But it's like I get it. It's just like maybe it's stuff. Maybe it's because I haven't played these games that
I will tell you.
I have a hard time understanding the decisions. Maybe.
I hear where you're coming from. I do want to take a second to talk about what I thought was the weirdest category that this was a category in the award show, and that is Best Chinese Game. That was
that was a weird. I noticed that too.
Best Chinese Game is a game called JX3 HD, which of course means nothing to us in the West, but apparently this is sort of a remake, like an HD remake of a popular MMO that came out in 2009. And this is just so random to me. Like,
yeah.
Why is this even there? Are they getting a lot of Chinese people watching a Western games?
Josh, is it just advertising? Is that what you mean? Like,
I'll bet you Chinese investors are helping fund the Game Awards. I'll bet you.
That's an interesting.
Well, they've got their money in Hollywood and everything else now. I bet you they've got their money too. So
interesting. Did not think of that.
That would explain a lot.
Okay, all right, that's fair. But yeah, so I mean, like you can YouTube this game. It looks like a very sort of heavily based around Chinese legends and tropes and that sort of thing. MMO. So you've got a lot of swords and daggers and jumping around and stuff. So check it out. I mean, it's
levels probably.
Yeah, I know nothing about this game beyond a few YouTube videos I've seen, but I was surprised this was even a thing. I do want to, just in the interest of time, though, I do want to keep it moving. But before I do, I want to address actually a comment that came up on our feed. It talked about how some developers are rushing to get their stuff out onto the Switch, and because of that, they're a buggy, horrible mess. And the example they gave was WWE 2K18. And yeah, I think that's going to happen. I think it's going to happen a lot. I think those games won't sell well, and then hopefully the developers will learn to, actually QC their stuff. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll see. Oh yes. All right. So the last regular topic of the show has to do with Shadow of the Colossus. I thought this was really interesting. So they announced a remake of Shadow of the Colossus again. And I'm pretty sure this was announced back at E3, if I'm not mistaken. So the announcement itself isn't new, but what is new is now we get like a video that's really showing us like a side-by-side comparison of PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. And obviously there's a real progression because you're going from generation to generation to generation. My question is, do you guys feel like we need a remake of a remake? Is this a thing that we should have?
Sorry, go ahead,
Connor. No, you go first.
It's just I'm a huge fan of this game from back in my PlayStation 2 days, and with that perspective, I personally, honestly, don't need a PS4 Pro version. It's cool that it's happening. I'm glad that it's happening. But honestly, if I felt like playing Shadow of the Colossus again, I could blow the dust off the old PS2 I'm sitting like 5 feet from, and I could play it again if I wanted to. If I really needed more up-to-date graphics for it, I'd go get the PS3 version for like however much I could pick it up for at GameStop or whatever. I don't need a Pro version. I'm excited to see what they do graphically with it, but I'm not going to run out and buy it. And that's as, a huge fan of the game. I'm interested in what they mean by remake, though. Like, it's interesting that they choose the word remake instead of just remaster. Because we've been getting so many remasters over the last few years. And it's like, I'm used to that language, like, oh, remastering this, remastering that. But the fact that they're calling it a remake is interesting to me. I think that what they mean by that is they're actually redoing everything in a different engine. Is that what they're doing? Or is it?
They have to. Yeah, they're completely rebuilding the game from the ground up.
Right.
And they're even adding new Colossus, supposedly.
Okay.
Two new Colossus, I think.
Okay, well, that's interesting. So I didn't know about the new bosses part. So, like, okay, I might change my answer then, because like that, I think this is a great opportunity for someone who hasn't, maybe like me, who hasn't played a remastered version of it before.
Because I picked up the PS3 version when it came out.
What's that?
I picked up the PS3 version when it came out.
Right. So I didn't get the PS3 version, but this is probably a good entry point for someone who hasn't played it in a long time and wants to sort of revisit it. So that's kind of cool. It's like a revisit of an old classic, but
Sure.
really doing some new stuff with it, which is like new Colossi. That's pretty exciting. So I'm liking that.
This is one of those games that I always end up with a copy of it on whatever it's released on. So PS2, PS3. And I always tell myself, well, everybody loves it, so it must be good. So the first time I played it, I just must not have been in the right mood. Okay, well, the second time I played it, I must not have been in the right mood. Okay, no, this game sucks, but I'm probably going to buy it for the PS4 because I'm an idiot. It's honestly a game I've never really I've never gotten its appeal, even though I own it on everything it can be owned on.
That's strange to me. So why do you keep buying it?
That's interesting.
It's like Borderlands. I own Borderlands 1 and 2 on literally every device I have.
You want to love it, but you just
I want to love it. I can't bring myself to.
You really can't force these things, Josh. It's just like, I mean, I know what it's like where you feel like you have to like something because it's so ubiquitous that everyone can't shut up about. But Shadow of the Colossus to me is one of those games where, like, if you don't admire the simplicity of it, then it's just not going to click with you. Some people just don't really get I'm not saying you don't get it. It's just more like you kind of have to appreciate like just the minimalist kind of artistic approach of it, like the music, the atmosphere, the creature design, things like that.
I loved Ico. I loved Ico when it came out on PS2. Okay. I bought that on launch day and loved that game.
Right.
But Shadow of the Colossus was always this mess of bad controls and bad camera. And like I could just never get over it.
I will give you the controls could have been way better. Hopefully that's something they maybe address in the PS4 Pro version.
I'm sure they will. Yeah. So that's why I'll probably end up with it, because I'm going to convince myself, well, they must have fixed the camera. No. That new game that they released that still had a bad camera this year was just a fluke. The new one, they're going to fix the camera this time.
The interesting thing to me is that if you look at the comparison video, you can see the first two are kind of gray. Right, they sort of just have the tone is very gray, and that matches with the game. The game is dark, somber, kind of depressing. I don't want to say depressing, but depressing is the wrong word. But it's not a happy game, right?
It's a little muted.
Yeah, and this one with the PlayStation 4 version, you're seeing a lot more color, a lot more green, and a lot more brightness to it. And I wonder how much, if at all, it's going to impact like someone's perception of the game, if that makes sense.
The color palette's a lot closer to Breath of the Wild. I wonder if that was on purpose.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty happy to see they're using color vibrantly in the Pro version. I'm looking back on the original PS2 version. It was more like it was very neutral tones. It was very kind of almost sepia looking. It was like it was somber. It had a somber sheen to it. But now I'm wondering if that was a coincidence or they sort of went that direction to sort of hide how little processing power they had to work with back then. Or
back then, for sure.
Yeah, but this is an interesting take on it, where they are able to inject some more life into it, and hopefully that doesn't throw off the tone of the game. I don't think it will, but it'll be interesting to see how the visuals have a different character to them.
Yeah. So Connor, you say you're going to pick this up, and Josh, you pretty much.
I might.
Interesting.
I probably will. I'm an idiot.
I might.
Is there? I just out of curiosity, is there any game that you could see yourselves? I mean, I know you mentioned Borderlands already, but is there anything else that you could see yourself like picking up several times over, like the same game, essentially?
If they ever remastered Final Fantasy VI or remade Final Fantasy VI, I could see myself getting that again.
Well, they released for mobile right now.
Oh yeah, but that was all. They changed the art style. It looked awful.
Lately, I've been tempted to check out the PS4 version of Resident Evil 4, because Resident Evil 4 is one of my favorite games of all time.
That one's been ported to so many times.
Yeah, it's been ported and redone so many times, but I just recently found out that they ported it to PS4. I didn't even know that. It must have slipped under my radar, but that's something I'd probably pick up again.
Interesting.
Sleeping Dogs. If they brought it to the Switch, I'd buy Sleeping Dogs for the Switch.
That'd be cool. I actually just recently played Sleeping Dogs on PC.
That's a game that I haven't heard Sleeping Dogs in a while. It's a well done game. It didn't do very well when it first came out. It was too much of a GTA clone at the time to really.
So good.
It was seen as a GTA clone, but it had so much character to it. Like I have the definitive edition on Steam, and it's great, man.
Definitely. All right, very, very interesting answers here. Well, for those of you that have stuck around, or maybe you're just cheaters and you skip to the end, I don't know. We do have some great what the fuck stories for you. And the first one involves Pikachu, specifically Detective Pikachu. Now, what the hell is Detective Pikachu, you might ask? That's an excellent question. It is a question I am asking myself all the time, actually. It's a live action CGI. Well, actually, it might not be live action. I think it's just CGI. It is both a CGI animated movie and a video game that came out in Japan and now appear to be being ported over to the West. What makes it really, really weird is that Pikachu talks in this one, like a lot. If you watch the original Japanese version, he's talking in Japanese, and I cannot describe to you how weird and surreal it is to not have anything other than like Pika and Chew coming out of this thing's mouth. It is just so weird. And to add to the weirdness factor, by the way, this is true. When the movie was first coming out, a campaign was launched to get Danny DeVito to voice Pikachu in the US. That didn't happen, but Ryan Reynolds is going to be voicing Pikachu in the movie, supposedly. Did you guys watch like the little Japanese trailer?
A long time ago.
I did not. No.
It's super weird. Like, I don't know what the exact plot of this thing is beyond like someone is hurting Pokemon and Detective Pikachu is on the case, but god damn, this thing is weird.
They should have gotten the guy who played Mr. Drippy and Ni no Kuni to play Pikachu. That would have been good.
That would have worked. I could see that. No, look at that. I'm not wrong. It is live action. It's just that the Pikachu is CGI. It's also going to have Justice Smith from Jurassic World's Fallen Kingdom and Catherine Newton from Big Little Lies in this one. It's going to apparently come out sometime around Mother's Day in 2019. So you can take your mom to see Detective Pikachu. You're welcome.
I mean, as much as I like Ryan Reynolds, I'm actually really sad now that we might not ever hear Danny DeVito voice a Pokemon. That's kind of a dying wish of mine now.
It's funny because if you listen to the Japanese voice for the character, it's sort of like a deeper, older Japanese male voice. It's not even like a cute boy or a cute girl voice. It is like an older man that sounds like he should be smoking a cigarette or something like that. So within that context, Danny DeVito would work.
He's your man.
And it would be hilarious.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'll take Ryan Reynolds in the pinch.
What if it leads to like a joke in Deadpool 2? Because I think that would be kind of funny.
I hope it does.
It should lead to a joke in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, it leads to.
So yeah, so you could check out you could check out the trailer from Japan, or you could check out there's obviously plenty of video game footage from the 3DS game online. And again, Pikachu's talking for whatever reason. This is not Ash's Pikachu. This is just a different Pikachu that is talking in English with some dude, and they're trying to solve the mystery of who's hurting these Pokemon and stuff. And man, this is I haven't looked it up, but I'm kind of curious who the hell thought of like let's mix Sherlock Holmes with Pikachu. Let's just mash those two things together because everyone needs this in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Our other what the fuck story has to do, and obviously we saved the best for last, with that thing that everyone has been talking about as of lately, cryptocurrency. But we're not talking about Bitcoin for once. We're talking about something called CryCash. Why is it called CryCash? Not because you'll be crying, but because it's being made by Crytek, the developer behind Crysis and the CryEngine, those guys. So they are basically partnering. I forget with who. Let's see. They're partnering with a startup called CryCash. So that's the name of the company itself. And they are going to specialize in maintaining and distributing a cryptocurrency geared around the gaming community. What could go wrong?
So we've had a company that for 2 years, at least 2 years in a row, has had a problem paying its own employees. Now trying to start up a cryptocurrency. Yeah. No, I don't. I don't like this at all. Don't like this at all.
Doesn't look good.
The way that you are going to be earning this currency is by, for example, looking at ads or completing certain tasks in games. They're also going to create a social platform around currency to encourage growth. I have no idea what the fuck that means.
So they're creating Google Ads. They're not creating currency. They're creating revenue.
Right. Well, I guess, they're essentially, you get currency and/or points for looking at their ads, and then I'm assuming you can use those points on Crytek games, which aren't that numerous. I mean, there's a few of them out there, but most of them are pretty old, and I think a lot of people either have them or don't care at this point, right? Like, I don't think anyone needs to pony up the cash for Crysis 2 at this point. You either have picked it up for $5 on the Steam sale, or you don't give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It's very odd.
Strange.
Very, very strange.
It reminds me of there's this Adult Swim one-off kind of miniseries thing. like Too Many Cooks?
Yes.
There was another thing kind of like that called For Profit Online University. It's hysterical. It's so funny. I
gotta look that up.
Yeah, I demand you guys watch it. I highly recommend it. It's so funny.
Okay.
But in it makes reference to people like does for a living, where like they just like select images, like those captchas with the image captchas. They just do that all day, and they're paid in thought coins. It's like a cryptocurrency, and that's what they do for a living. And and CryCash just makes me think that, where it's like people are just gonna be watching ads to make money and like feed their gaming habit or whatever.
And by the way, I should mention that as far as I can tell, Crytek seems pretty serious about this. They have promised to invest 80% of its profits from the currency back into the currency itself. I'm not really sure what that means. Does that mean that they're going to buy back the currency from people to increase its value?
I guess whatever they make off of it in profit, they just have to recirculate it back into the kind of self-contained economy they're starting. Like, it sounds like something they would have to do anyway, not even really like a promise of it on their part.
It sounds to me that what they're going to do is, if they make a profit off the currency, because here's the thing, right? If they create more of the currency, then the value of each individual unit will go down, right? So the way you would increase the currency is to buy it back, right? Because then the value of each individual unit goes up. Because let's be honest here, I don't think, like something like Bitcoin has value because people think it has value. I don't think anyone's going to think this has value.
Mm-mm.
I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
So, you're going to need it for this one.
They would kind of there needs to be more stuff to actually use Crytek on. If like the only thing it's good for is Crytek games, like that's not anywhere near enough incentive for people to buy into a currency when like oh boy, I can buy Crysis 3 again, or like it's like what are people going to use it for? That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm not getting. You know?
I just hope they're not sending a letter to their employees this year that are like, hey, we're not going to pay you for 6 months. Currency off the ground, but once it gets off the ground, you saw how Bitcoin did. You're going to be rich.
Good news, everybody. Good news. All your paychecks will now be exclusively in CryCash. We're just going to pay you all in CryCash now.
That's right.
We're going to pay you in a currency we invented. Doesn't that sound wonderful?
It's Monopoly money.
You're rich.
Oh my God.
But yeah,
work is its own reward.
That's right. So unfortunately, that is all the show we have for you this week. As always, make sure you hit like, subscribe, or comment below. We'd love to hear from you guys. Until next time, I've been your host, Michael Schluger.
Josh Irwin.
And I've been Connor Howard.
Have a great week of gaming. Push a lot of keys for us. We will see you next week.